Howdy, and welcome back to Celebrating Vintage Model Kits. Today we're going to be looking at another kit from Czechoslovakia from KP. This is the Yak-23. It's kit number 18 from their series. It's in 1/72 scale, and it's first issued in 1981. Box art was done by a gentleman by the name of Yaroslav Velk. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that somewhat close. Apologize to any of our Czech viewers. This is a really small little kit, but what was kind of neat with KP was that they made a lot of aircraft that not a lot of other companies made, in some cases the only issue of an aircraft. They were focused mainly on aircraft that had flown in Czechoslovakia. And so they were around from late 60s to mid 90s. They produced their own molds, and a lot of Soviet era aircraft that ended up, flying with the Czech Air Force and being in Czech service. A little bit of German stuff when some of the German aircraft were being utilized by the Czech Air Force as well. Couple of Western aircraft, such as I think they made a Spitfire, a J-3 Cub, but the vast majority of what they were making were Czechoslovakian stuff from pre-war era all the way through to the end of their production. So the Yak-23 here, spelled with a J. Here in English in the West we have it with a Y for Yak, for Yakovlev, was a development of the Yak-17, which in turn was a development of the Yak-15, which in turn was a development of the Yak-3. So the Yak-3 was a famous piston-engined end-of-the-war fighter for the Russians. After the war, they stuck a Jumo 004 engine underneath the nose and made first locally produced jet aircraft for the Soviets, and then they developed that a little further into the Yak-17, and then finally this Yak-23 in the same kind of design, straight wing, tubular fuselage with the engine slung underneath the wing. So this is kind of the end of that design style. The origins of the Yak-23 were from a 1947 OKB order for another straight wing fighter aircraft to utilize either the Rolls-Royce Nene or the Rolls-Royce Derwent engine. It was to have 950 kilometers an hour speed at sea level, which is 590 miles per hour, 1,000 kilometers at 5,000 meters, 16,400 feet, and 621 miles per hour. Needed to climb to that altitude of 5,000 meters in 3.5 minutes, and it was to have a minimum range of 1,200 kilometers, or about 750 miles. So the Yakovlev utilized the same basic design, underslinging an engine in the nose of the aircraft, maintaining the straight wing. It's basically just more refinement of the previous versions of it. It did have slotted flaps and ailerons. It was capable of carrying 195-liter drop tanks on the wingtips, and it was armed with two 23mm NR-23 cannons with 90 rounds per gun. So the first flight was 8 July of 1947, entered Soviet service in late 1949, but this came out right when things were really changing. The MiG-15 was being produced shortly after this, and the Soviets really didn't have a need for this aircraft, since the MiG-15 was really the next quantum step forward in fighters. So they only produced about 316 of these between 49 and 51. Out of those 316, number of them did get exported. The Czechs received about 20 of them. They were going to produce it under license and started getting tooled up for it, but once the MiG-15 became available, they decided not to, so they ended up just sticking with those 20, and then end up handing those off to some of the other Eastern Bloc countries that did utilize the Yak-23. Bulgaria received about 100, Poland received another 100, and Romania ended up with about 62 of them. So it didn't last for very long with most of the countries. The only ones, I think, Romania ended up keeping them around until about 1960, but everyone else phased them out pretty quickly once the MiG-15s became available to them. Interesting, little side story on it. One of the Romanian Yak-23s pilot defected to Yugoslavia. The Russians didn't know that this had occurred, and the Yugoslavs had crated up the aircraft, and the U.S. government worked something out with Yugoslavia to be able to basically steal the Yak, bring it to the United States, and evaluate it. So that was in November of '53. It was taken to Wright-Patterson. They put it all together, put American markings on it, and test flew it for a little while. Took it apart, changed the markings back to the original, and then shipped it back to Yugoslavia, and the Soviets never knew what happened. There is a rumor that a few of these did end up flying with North Korea during the Korean War, but I was not able to establish any hard evidence that that did occur. May have just been misidentification of some of the other earlier Yak fighters, but it's possible that the Yak-23 may have shown up in North Korea. So let's take a look at the kit itself. So we've got this nice artwork on the cover, 1/72 scale listed here. On the side here, we've got the KP and profile of one of the decal choices. On this side, we've got another profile of a decal choice, kit number 18, and then we've also got the listing of other aircraft that were available from KP. On the end, we've just got simple Yak-23 logo for KP. And on this side, we've got another profile. Nothing on the bottom. It's interesting, they do have to secure the box, this large piece of tape with the KP logo on it. So let's see what we've got inside. Top is a thin cardboard folded over piece, so it gives a little bit more rigidity than just a straight one. Then the bottom is a stapled box that's been folded up, and here are the instructions. So the instructions appear to be this is probably Czech, and then we have English, and not sure what language this would be, maybe Polish. So, good history about the aircraft. Here, specifications on it, another profile. On the flip side of that, get your camouflage and markings. So here you've got 3 views of 3 of the markings that are available. A Czech one, Polish one, and a civilian Polish. And then inside, got your basic instructions on how to put together a kit, and a listing of other aircraft that were available. Do have a parts tree layout, which is nice. Numbering all the parts. That probably means that the parts don't have numbers on them, so it's good they got this here. And then basic assembly instructions. So there is a little bit of a cockpit, it looks like. And then one-piece wings, looks like. Then you got your stores, landing gear pieces, and a little schematic for wiring and the aerials. So pretty good instruction sheet. Real thin sheet paper, but does its job. And here we have the decals. And the information on the back of them. And they're still in pretty good shape. Look pretty crisp. Registration looks pretty good on them. The red's a little see-through, a little translucent. But other than that, look pretty good. So you've got a total of 4 different marking setups on this decal sheet. The Polish one, there's the Polish one with the yellow 16 is of an aircraft that is in the Polish the Museum of Polish Aviation. They've got an aircraft that's marked in those markings. I was not able to source a photograph of the aircraft in service looking like that, but that is one that is at the museum now. The SPGLK is a civilian marking for a Polish aircraft. In September 1957, Polish pilot by the name of Andrzej Abramowicz set 2 FIA world records in a civilian version of the Yak-23, and it was time to climb in the weight class. So the time to climb to 3,000 meters was 119 seconds, and 6,000 meters was 197 seconds. So that set a record at that time. And that's these are the markings of that. This little thing, I believe, is for some sort of a school or university. Is what I think is represented by that. And on this side here, we've got the check markings. So you've got the check roundels, and then 2 sets of codes. The HX-51 is an aircraft that is at the Prague Aviation Museum in Kabeli, and it's questioned as to whether or not that's the actual original markings on it or not, or if that was just added at some point. It looks like they've chosen to develop these decals based off of that. And then finally we've got KR-17, which is squadron marking. Was not able to source a photograph of that, but I was able to find one for an IF-17. These Yak-23s went through 3 different squadrons as they were getting quickly replaced by MiG-15s. They were handed down to another squadron that didn't have jets yet, and then as soon as the MiG-15s came available, they swapped out the Yak-23s. So the KR, the HX, IF, those are codes for the different squadrons. So it may be very possible that that IF-17 is what became the KR-17 represented by these decals. So I'll show you some photographs of those aircraft here. Now let's take a look at the kit. I got this kind of unusual hoop for the stand. Looks like you got the KP Models logo on the vertical part, and then the canopy is part of this. You can see this is really poor, clear plastic. Lots of waves and just gunk in it. Not the best at all. And as far as the canopy goes, somewhat thin, but just really wavy and not very good on there. And is this, so that might be gun sight on there. Let's see if that was on the instructions or not. I don't see it, but anyway, that's your clear part. And then we've got this sprue with the fuselage. It's made up of raised panel lines, a little bit of raised rivet detail around the wing root. Some of the access panels in the back have some rivet detail on them. A lot of edge flash around the edges of the wheel well. Some flash around there, flash around the nose. A lot of flash around where the ejector pin marks are. And it looks like there's only a couple of locator pins, one on the nose and one on the tail. And no additional interior stuff, but get you a little better look at that. So you can see the detail on there. And we've got this tree here with small parts. Got your landing gear, some aerials, gear doors, intake, splitter. Here's some of the cockpit parts. You got a instrument panel with very vague instruments on there, some wheels. A lot of flash around the edges on these. There's your cockpit tub that does have some, a little bit of a raised detail for the side panels. There's your main gear. Again, just a lot of flash. There's your gear doors and seat, and the drop tanks. So there's a lot of dimples and not the best molding in the world. And then here we have the wings and tail. So again, we've got raised panel lines. Looks like some circles for access points. Not much for wheel well detail. There's your tail planes. Your top surfaces. So just enough, to let you kind of know what's going on there. It's fairly fine, so it's not going to stand out, tremendously on there, so not too bad. But again, a lot of flash around the edges. This is going to need a lot of cleaning up to look good. And that's it. Not a whole lot to this. Small airplane, small kit. So KP, as far as I could see, this is the only issue of the kit from KP. There was a couple of 90s issues by CoPro and Mastercraft as a joint venture. CoPro possibly could be the next version of KP. Was not able to determine that. But CoPro was a Czech company that seemed to come around right around the time when KP stopped existing. So it may be just a new form of KP. And then, so CoPro did their own separate release in 2004. And in 2011, another company called KP Models that was around for a couple of years in the mid 2000s. They did a release of this, and then Mr. Craft reissued it again in 2017. And I believe Mr. Craft is a new incarnation of Mastercraft from Poland. So this kit's gotten issued a few more times recently, so you can probably still find this in a hobby shop if you're looking for a Yak-23. There's not a lot of other kits of this out there. There's a couple in 48 scale, a couple in or one other one I think in 72nd scale. There's one in 32nd scale. They are all, from what I could see, Eastern European model makers, but they are more recent productions, so they might be a little bit nicer than this KP one. But for for the time, for 1980, this wasn't a bad little kit. So have you built one of these? Have you built one of these old KP kits? Let us know about it in the comments section, and if you got any pictures of a completed one of these models that you'd like to send in for our next viewer build video, that'd be fantastic. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and have yourself a great rest of your day.